Hey guys, this week for Weapons Wednesday, we're looking at some of the newest weapons we just added to the KarateMart.com website. But before we begin, if you could just like this video and subscribe to our channel, that would be awesome. So last week we did something a little bit different. We did a live feed on both YouTube and on Instagram. And what we did is we actually had a number of our manufacturers send us samples of various weapons. And I tested them out on video and showed you what I liked and what I didn't like about each weapon. And then I asked you to go to the community tab and vote for whether you thought each weapon was good or whether you thought each weapon was garbage. So you guys have been voting over the last week. The results are still not in, but there's a couple of items that you guys have absolutely voted for. So one of the items that you guys have voted for as good is the pull pin panic alarm. And I agree, I think this thing is awesome. It's great in the respect that you can use it anywhere. There's no laws that you have to worry about. This is great for school children. This is great for high school students, college students. What you do is if you are getting attacked, you pull out the pin, the alarm goes off, the strobe flashes, you kind of throw it out of the way, and then that gathers the attention of everyone around you. So very cool thing. And then the other thing I really like about it is one of our YouTube followers actually mentioned that you could turn this into a perimeter alarm. You could actually tie a cord to this side, and then if someone were to tripwire it, it would just kind of go off. So I thought that was a really cool idea. The other weapon that you guys really liked that we're going to start carrying is the Stealth Survival Spear. The thing that I like the most about it is it's made from an SK5 steel, which is very durable, a good steel to have on a spear. I think this thing is awesome, but this week we're going to do something a little bit different. I had Amanda go back into the warehouse and she shows some of our newest weapons for me to review. So at the end of this video, make sure you guys go to the community tab and vote for which one you liked best. And as always, there's links in the description of the video so you can get more information about each of these products. So without further ado, Amanda, what is our very first weapon?
There you go.
Awesome, awesome. All right, let's see what this is. All right, and our very first weapon is the Saber Tooth Ulu knife. I love Ulu knives. They're so cool. The deal with Ulu knives is they're actually a tool that's been used by indigenous people in Alaska, in northern Canada, for thousands of years. They're known to be used for things like cleaning animals. They're actually known for, if you were an Eskimo and were building an igloo, you would be kind of slicing down different ice blocks in order to build the igloo properly. They have so many uses. Nowadays you see them used for food preparation too. So this one, look at this. This is absolutely beautiful. I don't know if you want to see that on Instagram. And for those of you who are watching, you're watching our YouTube video probably, but we're actually doing a live feed on Instagram nowadays. So you might see Ileana or one of the other employees come in front of the camera because they're getting an inside view of what's actually happening on this Weapons Wednesday video. But if we look at this, this is absolutely beautiful. We can see that the blade has this mirror finish to it, and it's made out of a stainless steel. I love the look of that. Stainless steel is definitely not my favorite steel. This is a 440 stainless steel, but when it's got this polished mirror finish, it just looks so beautiful. And if we look at the tang of this, how it goes through the handle of the knife, I love how you can see that polished steel look. And the nice thing about that also is this is generally a food preparation knife. So the fact that it is made out of 440 stainless steel means that it's going to be more corrosion resistant, which means that it actually is going to be good for food preparation. Now, if we look at the handle is one of my favorite parts of this. We can see that the handle is made out of two different types of wood. We've got a dark wood and we've got a light wood. And then we can see that they're using brass pins to actually pin them into the tang of the blade. So that just all looks really nice. So if you're looking for a gift for someone for Christmas or something, this is actually a perfect gift. I love this because it could be used for food preparation, could also be used as a weapon. Now, let's just look at how this thing would actually be used. If we're doing food preparation, let's say we're cutting a pizza. All right, if we're cutting a pizza, you would probably hold it like this because you'd want to kind of like go like that, move in that direction. Whereas if we're using it upside down for food preparation, I'd have to really like twist over in order for it to cut the pizza properly. So you definitely, for a food preparation type thing, you'd want to hold it like this. Now, if you're using this as a tactical weapon, I would personally hold it in this direction because you've got more reach. You could stab with more reach in that way. You've actually got this thumb rise right here that would be perfect for actually holding this weapon. So I love that. The blade length is approximately 7 inches long and it weighs approximately 10.6 ounces. So that is a good weight for this weapon. But you guys want to see me test it out. So I'm going to come out here and first off, I want to see if it's comfortable enough to kind of punch with a little bit. Maybe not punch. How about we just kind of slice this wood right here just a little bit. Let's see how that works. Oh yeah. See, look at that. That's a nice sharp blade. So that worked out great for that. So for a utility purpose blade, that is awesome. That actually worked out really nicely. If we're going to stab with this, you could really dig that in if you use that properly. So I like that. If we're going to use it in this respect, I think you could definitely come in with a reverse strike like that, and that would be pretty cool. But I feel like it would be better for tactical purposes to go in this respect. You could probably get some better strikes with that. But either way, I mean, practicing with this, I think this would be an awesome weapon to learn. And then it comes with this nice heavy-duty nylon sheath, and then it looks like it could sit on the side of your body nicely, but I have a feeling people are just going to throw this in their collection and it's going to look just beautiful. So I don't think there's anything more to say about this. I'm going to go ahead and put this away, and let's move on to our next weapon. All right, Amanda, what do you have next for me?
There you go.
Awesome, awesome. Okay. And our next weapon is the military brass knuckle duster. Okay, let's check this guy out. Oh, wow. That is cool. Here, check this out on Instagram. That looks awesome. So when I look at this, first off, I noticed this US 1918. You'll see these stamped on the Mark I trench knife. The Mark I trench knife was the trench knife that was used in World War I in fighting in the trenches. So this is actually inspired by the Mark I trench knife. It's got the two center knuckles off of that, which have kind of the spike that you see in that trench knife. But this is actually a bottle opener too, so that's why I can see this as being like a good gift for someone. We can also see that it's got a place for a key ring on there, so you could definitely add it to your key ring. And then the holes on this are actually very big. So that's gonna fit anyone. I can't see even having humongous hands that not fitting. I mean, look at all that space in there. Just fits perfectly. Now, if we're holding this thing, whenever I talk about brass knuckles, I always mention that there's a couple different ways to use them. You can use them striking in a fist fashion, or you can kind of put them a little bit higher on your knuckles and use them in a swiping motion. So whenever you buy a pair of brass knuckles, you have to test that out because it's not a universal thing. Because it all depends on the size of this palm grip, the size of your hands, and then the shape of the palm grip. So for this one, for instance, I don't know how this is going to work. We're going to have to test it out. So if you ever get a pair of brass knuckles, you want to test it out in both different methods on something very soft, like maybe a punching bag or something. I'm going to test it out very lightly on this Wing Chun dummy, and we'll just see. So first off, I'm going to try it in a punching fashion. So I'm just going to kind of stick it into my fist, and that was not good. That was really not good because the squared palm grip just dug right into my palm. So I would not like it like that. Now let's put it up a little bit higher on our knuckle and use it in a swiping fashion. Yeah, that actually felt a lot better because we've got a little bit more padding in here. But personally, if I were to buy this, I would probably round it off a little bit. I'd probably take that to a grinder, round it off just a little bit, just so it wouldn't dig into your hand anymore. But I love the look of this. So we can see that this is made out of 100% brass, but it's got this antiquated look to it and this texture to it that gives it kind of that old school military designs. It looks like it weighs approximately 5 ounces, which is fairly heavy for a key ring, but this is solid brass. Brass is fairly heavy, so that's understandable for sure. The width of it is approximately 2 5/8 inches, and the height is approximately 2 3/4 inches. Personally, I think this would make a great gift. Just, it's so important that you check your local laws on this because you don't want to give it to someone for a gift and then find out that it's an illegal weapon in their area. But for someone who drinks a lot of maybe soda or something, I can see that being very, very popular. But I'm going to go ahead and put this away. And let's move on to our very next weapon. All right, Amanda, what do you got next for me? Ooh,
There
a big
you go.
one. Nice, nice. Okay, let's see what this is. Oh, wow, okay. 2 of them. Very, very nice. All right, so our next weapons are the Stealth Knuckle Axe and the Crimson Knuckle Axe. All right, so let's just take a look at these. We've got 2 different colors in here. This is interesting. I love when we see new weapons that I've never seen before. Something that's very creative, but honestly, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I'm a little confused by this design. We're gonna have to check this out. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop with that and let's see what we think. So first off, we can see that this has, it looks like an ABS, a hard ABS plastic sheath to it. I don't like ABS as much as Kydex, but it brings down the cost of the weapon, and it does protect the blade pretty nicely. The nice thing about this is that it is form-fitted to the blade, so I'm just going to take off this little restraining strap there, and it holds onto the blade very nicely. Like, you don't have to worry about that falling out at all, so that's pretty nice. And then we've also got this belt clip back there, so we can hang it from the side of our body if we wanted to. But I'm going to pull out the blade on this. Look at that. That is pretty neat. So I love creativity. I love when people come up with creative weapon ideas like this, even if it's not a practical weapon, which I'm just a little dubious that this might not be the most practical weapon in the world, but you guys can decide. I want to hear from you guys on the community tab. Let me know whether you think this is a practical weapon or not. We can see that this is made from one solid piece of 3CR13 stainless steel. As you know, 3CR13 stainless steel is not my favorite steel, but the benefit of it is it keeps a weapon very inexpensive. So this is going to be an inexpensive weapon, plus it's corrosion resistant and it's easy to sharpen, but its blade retention is very, very bad. So you will, as an axe, if you're chopping with this for a while, you will lose the blade sharpness pretty quick and you'd have to resharpen it. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind with it. We can also see that it's got this nice G10 handle over the top of that. I love G10. I think G10 is a wonderful material that's very comfortable on the hands, very durable, very corrosion resistant, but the design is what's bothering me on this. We can see, first off, we can also see that it's got this beautiful red finish to it. I think that's really nice. And then this guy right here has a nice black finish. So I guess whichever one you prefer, whether you'd like to be a little more flashy or a little more stealthy. The flashy one I think would look cool on a wall. This one would be better for like tactical purposes or something. But let's look at how this would actually be used. So we've got a blade here, and then we've got this little knuckle portion down here, which that's my problem with this weapon, is this knuckle portion. I think it's very unique. I think it's a very cool idea. But if we're using a little mini hatchet like this, I like the idea of being able to throw it. When we've got our hands in these knuckles, we can't throw that. That kind of bothers me too. And then also when you're chopping with an axe, you're often kind of like loosening your hands and tightening your hands. And this wouldn't allow you to chop very well because your fingers are stuck in those holes. And what is the purpose of this? I mean, they retain your weapon. If someone were to try to grab your weapon from you, that's going to retain your weapon, so that's nice. But this is going to do no good as a knuckle weapon. You couldn't punch with this very well. I mean, because you're hitting the blade. I mean, that really provides nothing as far as a knuckle duster type weapon. If we tried to do sideways and swipe with it, it's just kind of ridiculous because we're hitting this area of the blade right there. So from a practicality purpose, this is not practical as a weapon. You could possibly do hammer strikes with it. I can see that because you've kind of got this point right here. Oh yeah. Yeah, you could definitely do hammer strikes with that. But by doing hammer strikes, it kind of hit my finger right here, kind of hurt it a little bit. So even that is not very practical. So also we can see that we've got this venting in the blade here, which I understand venting in a weapon. Venting makes sense to me because the general purpose of venting is to take weight off the blade. But for an axe, if you want an axe head, you want it to be as heavy as possible so you can get some good momentum to chop wood or something. Why would you want to take off any weight? So clearly this is here just for aesthetic purposes. We can also see venting here, which I don't like venting here because that's actually going to take away a little bit of the integrity of the blade. Like I'd be worried about it actually breaking right in that area. So that bothers me just a little bit. And then what is this here? we've got this hook back here, this little pick back there, which is in an interesting design. Like I could see if we wanted to use that for hooking something. Let's say we were out in the woods and we wanted to, let's say we're in the Arctic and we wanted to carry ice. I could see that coming in handy or something. But if I was to do that, I would want to rotate this blade and do it that way, but you can't because of the knuckles. So that kind of bothers me just a little bit. The closest thing I can think that pick would be used for is back when I grew up on the farm, we used to use a pick like that to actually pick into the hooves of horses. So, I mean, if you've got a horse, maybe that would come in handy. You could pick the hoof of a horse. We also see that this is kind of a utility blade in the fact that we've got this hex wrench right here. The only problem with that is a single size hex wrench, so that's only going to come in handy for certain things. So I don't really understand the purpose of this. So as a cool looking weapon for your wall, awesome. For mall ninjas, awesome. I just don't know if this is a very practical weapon. So I'm curious what you guys are gonna think. Go ahead and vote on it, decide for yourself. The total length of this thing is 7 3/8 inches. The blade length is approximately 3 inches long and the total weight is 7.6 ounces. So all of that makes sense to me. It actually has a nice weight to it. Let's test this out, see if it hurts my hand. Actually, it's not. It's not hurting my hands. I thought it would, it's not. So that's kind of cool. I actually can get some pretty decent momentum with this. So I'm actually a little more impressed with this than I thought I would be originally. I'm curious about that hook though. Yeah, the hook is nice and solid. It's just the design's just a little impractical, but I think it's actually pretty decent. And I think because I'm throwing my thumb up there to get my control with this, it actually seems pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and put this away. Let's move on to our next weapon. All right, Amanda, what do you got next for me?
There you go.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, and our next weapon is the Ultralight Speed Stiletto. Ooh, okay, I like stilettos, that's pretty cool. Oh wow, look at that. Check that out, Ileana. It looks awesome. So first off, the thing I really like about this is that skeletal design. That's the reason why this thing would be called the Ultralight Speed Stiletto, is because that skeletal design takes away so much weight off of this. Plus, I can tell if we look at this, the handle is actually made from an anodized aluminum, so that's going to be lighter as well. And then we've also got this G10 on here that's kind of minimalistic, which looks really, really nice, and that is comfortable in my hand. And then let's see. Okay, so that's got a nice flick to it. That actually is clearly a ball bearing pivot on there, which I really like ball bearing in certain respects. I'm gonna make that very clear. Ball bearing is really good for a stiletto because it's not really a survival knife. Ball bearings are not great for survival purposes. If you're gonna bring a ball bearing knife out in the woods, it's very easy to get dirt in it, which can mess up the ball bearings. So for a stiletto, that's absolutely great. For a survival knife, not the greatest. But look at that. Look how fast that is. That just feels really nice. The blade is made from a 3CR13 stainless steel, which is absolutely not my favorite steel, as I've said before. But in a stiletto, it really doesn't bother me that much because a stiletto, you're not chopping. You're not doing a lot of slicing. So you're not going to have to worry so much about the blade doling on you. Now, you are going to be sticking a stiletto. So that sticks really nicely, but you don't have to really worry too much about it getting hurt. So there's a lot of things I really like about that. The pivot feels nice. It also has this pocket clip on it, that's a really heavy duty, nice and sturdy pocket clip. The overall length of this is approximately 8 inches, and the folded length is approximately 4.5 inches, and the blade length is approximately 3.5 inches, and it only weighs 2.7 ounces. So that is why we're calling it an ultralight speed stiletto. So again, for a gift, this thing's pretty awesome. I love how fast it is. I love how light it is. You wouldn't even notice you having this in your pocket. So a very cool little blade. How should we test this thing? Let's see. Okay, so it seems to stab pretty nicely. I mean, I really like, yeah, that's got a nice blade, and that didn't harm the blade at all. We can see that the tips looks really good. This is actually really dense wood on this pellet, so that'll give us a good test to see if the blade actually gets dinged at all. Yeah, Yeah, there's no problem with that tip at all. The tip looks great. I actually really like this knife. If I were to buy it, I mean, the only thing that kind of bothers me is the 3CR13 stainless steel, but honestly doesn't even bother me for a stiletto. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this away and let's move on to our next weapon. All right, Amanda, what do you got next for me?
Here we go.
Okay. Ooh, a nice big one. Let's see what this is. Ooh, I like how you put the paper here. That's good. Okay, let's see what this guy is. Oh, wow. Look at this. This is heavy. This is so heavy. What is this thing called? Okay, this next weapon is called the Modern Warrior Nagamaki. Okay, interesting. So, a Nagamaki, that's not a very common sword name that we hear very often. So a Nagamaki was a Japanese sword that's known for having a very long handle. Not to be confused with a naginata, which is more of a pole arm. So on a naginata, you typically see like a wooden handle. Nagamaki is more of like a sword style. Now, generally a Nagamaki, one of the things that kind of is common with a Nagamaki is the blade is generally about the same length as the handle. Now, that's not a general rule though. There's no specific rule to that or anything. We can see on this one that the blade is slightly shorter than the handle, but I love the look of this. And for such an inexpensive sword, this is amazing. The blade itself is made from a 1065 high carbon steel. And as you guys probably know, I like 1065. I think 1065 is an excellent steel for sword blades. And this one's actually been heat treated so that it reacts kind of like a spring steel. So it's a little more durable, it's a little more flexible. I think this is going to be an excellent blade for you. And look at how the tang works on this thing. We can see that the tang is actually between these two big chunks of steel going all the way through the handle. And then we've got this wrapping on there, which the wrapping is probably the thing I don't like so much about this. That appears to be a polyurethane wrapping, which is nice and comfortable. I like polyurethane wrappings in the respect that they do stay on the weapon very nicely. They don't fall off very easily, and they're very comfortable. But I'll tell you what, if I were to buy this, because it's so inexpensive, I would actually modify this a little bit. I would take off the polyurethane wrapping, and then I would grind down the kind of flat edges there and turn this into more of a rounded handle. And then I would rewrap this myself with leather. And you could turn this into a great, great sword for the price, for sure. I mean, considering this is one piece of 1065 high carbon steel, that is awesome. The blade is very sharp. The tip is super sharp. This is heavy though. This is really, really heavy. It weighs 5 pounds, 12 ounces. The total length is approximately 42 inches and the blade length is approximately 15 inches. So, I mean, that gives you some incredible reach. I think this thing's gonna destroy whatever we decide to hit with it. So, is there anyone on Instagram that thinks has an idea as to what we should hit this with?
No, but they want to know the name again.
Oh, okay, gotcha. This is the Modern Warrior Nagamaki. Very cool Japanese weapon, but this is a modern version of it. So most of the time when you see an old school Nagamaki, it's gonna look like a samurai sword with a really long samurai sword handle, but this is more of a modern version. And I like the fact that it's a modern version because this is going to be very, very difficult to break. I mean, that is solid steel that's surrounding the tang of that blade. So that is awesome. But let's hit some stuff with this. I'm actually going to throw on some safety glasses. And if you guys could just move back just a little bit, I don't want anyone to get hurt in here while I'm doing this, because I have a feeling this thing's just going to bust through whatever we decide to hit with it. And that blade is going to hold up nicely. So let's check this out. Okay, we'll try the pellet first. All right. Okay, see how that just one chop just chopped all the way that far through. Here we go again. I mean, look at that. That's beautiful. It even broke the back of it. And the blade, zero damage to that blade. Look how thick that blade is too. That is that thick of a piece of 1065 high carbon steel. That is beautiful. There's not even scratches on this blade. I mean, that is amazing. I love this thing. Let's stab. I didn't want to stab too far hard because that thing's gonna fall over. But man, that thing just sticks right in that one ton of it. Just broke right into that section there. It's pretty nice. I bet if we break the concrete, it's gonna be no problem at all. Yep, no problem at all. No damage to the end of that. It's actually, I mean, perfect. You can't beat that. I mean, there's nothing on this thing that's gonna get broken. This is like an end of the world apocalypse weapon that's gonna last forever. So I love this thing. I think it's so awesome. One thing I forgot to mention is it does come with this really nice sheath. Now, I don't think this is actual leather. This appears to be an imitation leather, but the stitching on this is beautiful, and I think it's gonna protect your blade really well. Oh yeah, that's awesome. But if you guys have any questions on this or any of the other weapons I showed off in this video, definitely leave them in the comments below. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to our channel, and check out KarateMart.com because we've got all sorts of really cool weapons on there right now. But until next week, we'll see you Weapons Wednesday.